Growing up in the 90s, I remember that every single science magazine was promising we were just a few years away from having flying cars. Well, it's been 25 years, but I'm now standing in the warehouse of one Israeli company that's promising to have exactly that.
It's in countless movies. You hop in your car and hop into the air. In fact, as long as people have had private cars, they have wanted them to fly. But the reality is a little more difficult.
The dream was going on the road and then flying into the sky. This is very problematic because if you do that, you get a mediocre car with a mediocre aircraft.
Personal planes mean either the very expensive, private jets, or the very unreliable, ultralights staying up on a wing in a prayer, and neither of which are as simple as driving.
The assumption that the pilot is very, very skillful, and he's very, very focused during flight or before flight, and so aircraft are designed around that. And cars are not.
Those challenges have existed for as long as powered flight, making the flying car a pipe dream. Until now. Because here in Israel, one startup is promising to deliver that dream to customers by 2024, an airborne electric vehicle capable of vertical takeoff and landing.
So we are creating something which is an aircraft for the mass production or mass use of people, for day-to-day use, commute or leisure.
It's no pipe dream this time. Air did its first test flight in Israel last month, showing off the vehicle's ability to hover and steer in the air. Now the company is raising funds to perfect the machine. But how do you overcome the same challenges that have dogged flying cars for decades?
Okay, I'm not a formal pilot or anything, but I do have 30 minutes of airtime in a single-engine propeller plane. And I remember that, even though it's one of the easier levels of plane, was an entire array full of dials, altimeters, readouts of all kinds of descriptors. A very complicated system. But this is pretty much just a joystick.
There's the secret. Make flying simple with software that covers the majority of what a pilot has to do.
We think that we've come to a point in time where the technology actually allows us to do that. Almost everything on this aircraft is, there are sensors, the control is electronics, there's computers that are aware of everything that happens.
And those sensors control all the technical data, airspeed, level, scanning for danger, making flying as simple as driving a car. And while Israeli law wouldn't let me take the real one for a flight, I got to experience it on their simulator.
So when you train on an airplane, most of the training is done on emergencies, low speed, stalling. All of those are being eliminated by fly-by-wire because the instrument takes care of itself. In this sense, the skill level is much reduced.
A skill level low enough for me to safely put the craft down, well beyond anything I got to in just a few hours of flight school. And because it's electric and can take off vertically like a toy drone, you don't need an airstrip. A backyard will do.
When you start being vertical, you don't need the infrastructure, you can come closer to the community. And if you are green and silent, you can also have the opportunity to not negatively interact with the community.
So does that mean just anyone can go out and buy a flying machine? Not yet. Many countries are still working on how to regulate flying electric vehicles and who can get a license. Then there's the cost. At $150,000, it's lower than most planes, but a lot higher than all but the most expensive sports or luxury cars. But the company expects the prices to drop as the tech improves, meaning the age of the flying car is just about cleared for takeoff.